I need you to pause absolutely everything you're doing at this moment, because what I'm about to walk you through over the next several minutes could very well be the deciding factor between spending the rest of your life feeling energized, sharp, and self-sufficient, or facing your final decades constantly shuffling between doctor's offices, managing one health complication after another. I'm not telling you this to frighten you. I'm telling you this because, after more than 2 decades of working as an endocrinologist, I've sat face-to-face with thousands of patients who arrived at my office far too late. People who felt perfectly fine. People who had no warning signs at all. And by the time they finally walked through my door, the harm had already been quietly progressing for years. So, if you're over the age of 60, or even getting close to 60, and someone has ever told you that your blood sugar is a little elevated, or borderline, or you simply want to make certain you never hear those words directed at you, then please stay with me, because today I'm going to reveal the one simple daily habit that my highest functioning patients rely on to keep their blood sugar steady, their metabolism running strong, and their bodies operating like people who are 10 to 15 years younger than their actual age. My name is Dr. Nathan Carter. I'm a board-certified endocrinologist, and I've devoted my entire career to understanding how the human body manages energy, blood sugar, and hormones, and even more critically, what goes wrong when that system starts to break down after the age of 60. And here's what the vast majority of people fail to realize. The real problem isn't just sugar. It isn't just diet. It's something far deeper happening inside your cells. Something that almost no one is talking about openly. And the solution, when I finally share it with you, is going to catch you off guard, because it's not a prescription medication. It's not an expensive supplement you have to order online. It's not a complicated multi-step protocol that requires a medical degree to follow. It's something you can begin doing tomorrow morning. But before we get to that, I need you to understand why this issue is so critically urgent, especially for people in your age group, because once the science clicks into place, you will never overlook this again. Here's what takes place inside your body as you grow older. When you're young, your body runs this beautifully efficient system for handling blood sugar. You eat a meal, your blood sugar rises just a bit. Your pancreas releases a hormone called insulin, and insulin works like a key that unlocks the doors to your cells. That allows glucose, the sugar that comes from your food, to move into those cells and get converted into energy. It's elegant, it's fast, and in a healthy, younger body, it happens almost without any conscious effort. But after age 60, something shifts. Your cells start losing their sensitivity to insulin. Those locks on your cell doors become stiff and unresponsive. Your pancreas is still producing insulin, but that insulin can't open the doors as easily as it used to. So what ends up happening? Your pancreas begins pumping out more and more insulin, desperately trying to push glucose into your cells. Meanwhile, your blood sugar stays elevated for a longer period after every meal. And over time, this condition, what doctors call insulin resistance, quietly snowballs into something far more dangerous. Now, here's a statistic that stopped me cold the very first time I came across it in the medical research. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, more than 96 million American adults, nearly 1 out of every 3 people, have prediabetes. And here's the truly alarming piece. More than 80% of those individuals have absolutely no clue. They feel perfectly normal. They're going about their daily routines completely unaware that their blood sugar is already creeping into harmful territory. And the research published in the journal Diabetes Care shows that without any intervention, up to 70% of people with prediabetes will eventually go on to develop full-blown type 2 diabetes. We're talking about tens of millions of people quietly walking toward a cliff they can't even see. And why does this matter so much more after age 60? Because your body's ability to bounce back drops significantly as you age. When a younger person develops early-stage insulin resistance, their body has much more metabolic reserve, more capacity to compensate. But by the time you reach your 60s, several things are happening at once, all of which make this far more dangerous. First, your muscle mass has already been declining for years. That natural process is called sarcopenia. And muscle tissue is actually one of the primary places where your body disposes of blood sugar. Less muscle means a lower capacity to clear glucose out of your bloodstream. Second, your liver becomes more resistant to insulin signals, so it keeps releasing glucose into your blood even when your blood sugar is already too high. Third, the beta cells inside your pancreas, the very cells responsible for making insulin, have been working overtime for decades, and they start to wear out. It's like an engine that's been running too hot for too long. Eventually, performance begins to drop, and the consequences of chronically high blood sugar are not limited to diabetes alone. This is what I want every single person watching this video to truly grasp. High blood sugar damages your blood vessels. It damages the tiny capillaries that feed your kidneys, your eyes, and your nerves. It sets off a cascade of inflammation throughout your entire body that speeds up aging at the cellular level. Elevated blood sugar has been directly linked to cognitive decline and a higher risk of Alzheimer's disease. In fact, some researchers have started calling Alzheimer's type 3 diabetes because of how strongly insulin resistance in the brain appears to be connected to dementia. High blood sugar also weakens your immune system, making you more vulnerable to infections and slower to heal. It disrupts your sleep, increases fatigue, and contributes to that frustrating type of unexplained weight gain around your midsection that so many people over 60 struggle with and cannot figure out why. Now, I want to share something with you that I observed in my own clinic over many years of practice. Something that eventually led me to completely rethink the way I advise my patients. I started noticing a clear pattern. Among my patients who were over 60 and successfully keeping their blood sugar beautifully stable, people who weren't on diabetes medication, who had excellent metabolic health, who looked and felt far younger than their years, almost all of them shared one specific daily behavior. It wasn't their diet alone. It wasn't that they were running marathons. It was something far simpler. And when I dug into the research to understand why it was working so well, I found a body of science that was genuinely fascinating. So let me tell you what that habit is, and then I'll explain the science so you understand exactly why it works. The habit is this: a short walk, just 10 to 15 minutes, immediately after eating your largest meal of the day. Yeah, that's it. A 10 to 15-minute walk, done consistently after you eat. Now, before you say, "Dr. Carter, I already knew walking was good for me," I want you to stay with me, because what happens inside your muscles and your bloodstream during those specific 15 minutes is something most people have never been told. And understanding it will completely transform the way you think about this simple activity. Here's the science. When you finish a meal, your blood sugar begins to rise, typically peaking somewhere between 30 and 60 minutes after you eat. That spike, and how high it climbs, is one of the most critical predictors of long-term metabolic health. A study published in the journal Diabetologia found that even a 2-minute walk after a meal was enough to significantly blunt the post-meal blood sugar spike, compared to sitting still. But when researchers extended that walk to 10 or 15 minutes, the results were even more dramatic. The post-meal glucose spike was reduced by as much as 30%. Now let me explain why that's happening at the cellular level, because it's remarkable. When your muscles are active, even during a gentle, leisurely walk, they begin to absorb glucose from the bloodstream through a pathway that does not require insulin at all. Let me repeat that, because it's the key to understanding why this is so powerful for people with insulin resistance. Your muscles can absorb blood sugar without insulin when they are contracting. This process is driven by a protein called GLUT4, glucose transporter type 4, which gets activated inside your muscle cells when they are in motion. So during that post-meal walk, your leg muscles, your core muscles, your arm muscles, they are all acting like sponges, soaking up the glucose that just entered your bloodstream from that meal. They are doing the job that insulin struggles to do when your cells are resistant. And that's not a minor benefit. For someone over 60 with declining insulin sensitivity, that post-meal walk is essentially giving your body a backup system, a second mechanism for clearing blood sugar that completely bypasses the insulin resistance problem. But wait, there's even more to this than just the immediate glucose effect. And this is the part I find truly extraordinary. Research published in the American Journal of Physiology showed that regular post-meal physical activity actually improves insulin sensitivity over time. Meaning, the more consistently you do this, the better your cells become at responding to insulin in general. Not just in the moments after the walk, but throughout the entire day. You're not just managing the symptom in the short term. You're actually working to correct the underlying problem. A study from New Zealand followed a group of older adults with prediabetes who incorporated short post-meal walks into their daily routine. After just 4 weeks, their blood sugar control had improved significantly, in some cases enough to move them out of the prediabetic range entirely. 4 weeks, without medication, without a dramatic dietary overhaul, just consistent, short walks after meals. And there's still another layer to this that most doctors never mention. Physical activity, especially light activity like walking, stimulates the release of a molecule called interleukin-6 from your muscles. Now, interleukin-6 gets a bad reputation because in other contexts it can be pro-inflammatory. But when it's released from contracting muscles during exercise, it actually acts in an anti-inflammatory way. It signals the liver to improve its insulin sensitivity. It helps regulate the hormones that control appetite and metabolism. And over time, this muscle-generated signaling helps reduce the kind of chronic low-grade inflammation that is strongly associated with insulin resistance, metabolic syndrome, and all the complications I described earlier. Your muscles, in other words, are not just mechanical devices for moving your body. They are endocrine organs. They produce hormones and signaling molecules that communicate with the rest of your body. And when you walk after a meal, you're activating this entire system. Now, I also want to address something I hear constantly from patients. Dr. Carter, what about my joints? I have arthritis. Walking is painful. This is such an important concern, and I want to be very clear. The walk does not need to be fast. It does not need to be vigorous. Even a slow, gentle, relaxed stroll around your living room, down your driveway and back, or around the block at whatever pace feels comfortable. That is enough. The muscle contractions during a slow walk are still sufficient to activate the GLUT4 pathway and begin clearing glucose from your blood. The research consistently shows that it's the activity itself, not the intensity, that drives this particular benefit. So if you have joint pain, take it slowly. If you use a cane or a walker, that's perfectly fine. If you live somewhere with difficult weather, walk the length of your hallway. The key is simply to move for those 10 to 15 minutes in that critical post-meal window. And here's one more thing I want you to think about, because I know some of you are watching this and thinking, okay, but I already take medication for my blood sugar, so does this still matter for me? The answer is absolutely yes, and in some ways it matters even more. Multiple studies have shown that post-meal walking can enhance the effectiveness of common diabetes medications. And for my patients who have been able to successfully reduce their medication dosage over time under medical supervision, consistent post-meal activity was almost always a part of their story. It is not a replacement for your medication. Never adjust your medication without your doctor's guidance, but it is a powerful complement that makes everything your medication is trying to do work better. I also want to mention one thing you can combine with this habit to amplify the benefit even further, because I tell this to every single one of my patients. Before your meal, especially if it's a carbohydrate-heavy meal, try to spend just 2 to 3 minutes doing some light resistance movements. A few chair squats, a few wall push-ups, or even just standing up and sitting back down 10 times. This pre-meal muscle activation has been shown to improve the muscle's glucose uptake capacity going into the meal. So, you're essentially preparing your muscles to handle the incoming glucose even before it arrives, and then you follow the meal with your 10 to 15-minute walk. That combination, pre-meal activation and post-meal walking, is the approach I recommend to my patients, and the metabolic data we see in follow-up appointments is genuinely remarkable. So let me bring this all together for you. After 60, your body's ability to manage blood sugar naturally declines due to insulin resistance, muscle loss, and reduced pancreatic function. The consequences of unmanaged high blood sugar go far beyond diabetes, affecting your heart, kidneys, brain, nerves, immune system, and your overall quality of life. But you are not powerless. In fact, you have a profoundly effective tool available to you right now, today, at no cost whatsoever. A 10 to 15-minute walk after your largest meal activates a non-insulin-dependent pathway in your muscles that clears glucose from your bloodstream, reduces post-meal blood sugar spikes by up to 30%, improves overall insulin sensitivity over time, and reduces the chronic inflammation that drives metabolic disease. It is simple. It is accessible. The science behind it is solid and well replicated. And, based on what I have observed in my own patients over more than 2 decades, it works. Start tomorrow. After your largest meal of the day, whether that's lunch or dinner, put on your shoes, step outside if you can, and walk for 15 minutes. Do it again the next day and the day after that. Give it 4 weeks of consistency, and I promise you will feel the difference. Many of my patients report better energy levels, more stable mood, improved sleep, and less of that heavy, sluggish feeling after meals within just the first 2 to 3 weeks. Your health at 60, 70, and beyond is not predetermined. The choices you make starting today have a real and measurable impact on what your body looks like 5 years from now, and that walk after your meal is one of the most powerful choices you can make. If this video gave you something valuable, if it changed the way you think about your blood sugar and your daily habits, please do me a favor and hit that like button right now. It takes 1 second, and it helps this information reach more people who genuinely need it. And if you're not subscribed to this channel yet, please subscribe and turn on notifications, because every week I'm bringing you science-backed, doctor-verified health information specifically designed for people who want to age with strength, clarity, and dignity. In my next video, I'm going to reveal the 5 foods that endocrinologists specifically recommend for stabilizing blood sugar. And number 3 on that list is going to completely surprise you. You do not want to miss it. I'll see you there.